I am here today to review the library book that you all picked for me to read. And book friends, I have some thoughts. Hello, I'm Jen, and welcome back to my reading life, and welcome to a You Picked It, I Read It exclusive book review of The Red Address book by Sofia Lundberg. This was one of a few library books that I pulled off the library bookshelf. I didn't read anything about them. It was purely a title and cover checkout. And I had, I think, 4 books for you to all choose from. And this was the winning book that you all wanted me to read. And I should have said this is translated from the Swedish by Alice Menzies. Now, before I get into my thoughts on the book, I'll just give you a brief synopsis. In this, we are following Doris. She is a 96-year-old woman, and she lives alone in Stockholm, Sweden. And she really doesn't have anyone close to her. She doesn't have any real friends or family nearby. She has a great niece, Jenny, who lives in California, and they Skype every week with Jenny and her children. But other than that, she doesn't really have any kind of social circle, it appears. She does have a home health nurse who comes in once a day and helps her out, makes her a meal, helps her shower and change her clothes and things like that. And it's obvious that Doris is not in the best of health. And she is sort of doing a project where she is writing to Jenny, and she's going through this red address book that she has had since she was a child. Her father gave it to her, and she's kind of going through the different people in the address book, and it is recalling to her sort of the history of her life. And we follow her from Sweden to Paris to the United States to England and back to Sweden again. And the book goes back and forth between the present day and the past, and we see Doris and what's happening to her currently, and then we also get a little bit of Jenny's perspective on things, and then of course we are going back in time and reliving Doris's life with her. That is the basic premise of the book. Now we will get into my thoughts on the book. I'm actually going to set the book down for a moment so that I can collect myself and try to review this book. I don't want to be too harsh, but I will say with 100% conviction that this was not a book for me. I struggled with this book almost the entire way through. And in fact, if I hadn't been reading this to review for you all, I would have DNF'd it at about the 1/3 mark. I found myself not wanting to pick it up. I found myself feeling really weighed down by the story and by Doris and what was happening to her both in the present and in the past. It was a lot. Let me just say that. It was a lot. And then I hit a little bit past the halfway mark, maybe about the 60 to 70% mark, and something really, really horrible happens to Doris. And I was really out at that point. And from that point until the end of the book, I really just skimmed just to kind of get the gist of the story and what happens. It was upsetting, it was disheartening, and I love that Fredrik Backman, who wrote A Man Called Ove, is quoted on the front as saying, "Written with love, told with joy, very easy to enjoy." Fredrik Backman, I am not sure what book you read, but this was not it. Or maybe it was, and something has gotten completely lost in translation. There were a number of issues that I had with the book, even outside of the content. I am going to give a few spoilers a little bit later in this review video. I will let you know when that's about to happen. So if you don't want any spoilers, if you think you might want to read this book, you can skip past those to the end of the video. But without giving any spoilers, There are a few things that I think are problematic with the book for me. One is that the dialogue felt very clunky and not well written. And I'm not sure if that's an issue with the writing itself or if that is a translation issue. I felt that about the story in general as well, that it didn't flow together very well. And the concept of the address book and using that as a way to tell the story, it didn't hold together for me. You don't ever get Doris in her present day kind of flipping through the address book and finding names, and then you go into that person and how they affected her life. It's just kind of like, here's a chapter about this person from Doris's life and how it affected her, and then we go on. It's not in alphabetical order. It is in chronological order. But if you were flipping through your address book, I don't know about you, but if I ever do that randomly, sometimes I will go through and just check to see if maybe there's people in my address book who I know have moved or have passed away, or if something's happened or something's changed in their life and I'm going to make some additions or subtractions or what have you, then I'm going to go through it alphabetically. I'm not just going to flip randomly unless I'm looking for a specific person, which maybe she was doing, but it just could have been made more clear in the structure of the story. So those are just things about the writing and the way the book is structured that I had problems with. And then, of course, I found the subject matter and some of the things that happen in the book to be problematic as well. Here is where I'm going to get into some spoilers. So I'm going to put here on the screen where you should fast forward to if you do not want to hear any spoilers about, the Red Address book. Okay, so as I mentioned, there's a lot of really kind of heaviness to this story. It starts off when Doris is very young and her father dies from sort of a tragic accident, and her family doesn't have any money, and so her mother sort of pushes her out to go get a job and leave home. She goes into service at first, and then she's discovered because she's very pretty, and she becomes a live mannequin and is taken to Paris. Things are not going well there either, though she does meet a Swedish man who is gay, who she becomes friends with, and they have a very long friendship and correspondence that goes on throughout the years. That's sort of the one positive thing. She has this love affair that ends tragically. They lose touch with one another. While in Paris, she's been separated, obviously, from her family, and she has a younger sister. And when the mother dies, the younger sister is sent to live with her. And so then the two of them end up going to the United States, and the very young sister gets married when she's I don't know how old she is, 16, 17, something, felt very young. And then Doris isn't happy in that situation, so she wants to go to Europe to find this guy that she was in love with and who's gone to, it's now World War II. And so she decides she's going to stow away on this, a cargo ship or something, because there aren't very many ships. There's no passenger ships going to Europe at the time because of the war. And she meets this man. He just says he's going to help her, and then he is awful to her. He gets her on this boat, and then he repeatedly rapes her. I was out at that point. That's where I was just nope. This is not a book for me. I mean, it didn't feel like it was a book for me up until then, and it definitely wasn't from that point. She gets pregnant, the baby dies. I mean, it is just one horrible thing after another. And then on top of that, you have what's going on with Doris in the present day, where she falls and breaks her hip in her apartment, and then she's hospitalized, and she has to have a hip replacement, of course, and then they want her to go into a skilled nursing facility, and she refuses to go. And then the great niece, Jenny, brings her youngest daughter and decides to go and visit Doris, which absolutely, Doris has been almost like a mother figure. She raised Jenny. Jenny's mother was a drug addict. I mean, there's just so much bad stuff in this book that happens to these people. It was so upsetting to me. And then, randomly, Jenny decides to help her find out if this man that she had been in love with in her early 20s is still alive. Turns out he is. And so they, Skype or Zoom or whatever. And because he's in the United States and Doris is in Sweden, or he's in Paris. I can't even remember now. I don't care, honestly. And then both of them die, one right after the other. And that's the book. I gave it 2 stars on Goodreads, but I might reduce that to 1 star. I mean, I really would have DNF'd it if I wasn't promising you guys a review video, and I probably should have just DNF'd it and then just told you guys why I did, but I skimmed through to the end, so I didn't read it super closely because I lost all desire to go on with the story. Unfortunately, this was a dud, but you know what? You win some, you lose some, and I wouldn't have known if I hadn't given it a read. And I really do feel like the blurb about it and the quotes from different authors, I mean, they've quoted Nina George, who wrote The Little Paris Bookshop, and a few other authors, in addition to Frederick Bachman. They've all said, you know, how lovely it is and full of tenderness and empathy. No, it's not, actually. If you like hard stories and really difficult circumstances that people are going through in a dual timeline situation where both timelines are having terrible things happen to the person in the book, then give this a read. If not, I am going to say I unfortunately don't recommend this one. So let's just say the best thing about it is that it's over. But do not feel bad, book friends, if you voted for me to read this book. This was actually the book of the 4 that I chose for you to vote on that I was most excited about reading. I was wrong too. I thought this was going to be wonderful and it wasn't. And even the first page of it drew me in, the first few paragraphs, and you know, it was all downhill from there, unfortunately. So, oh well, I am very curious. Let us chat down in the comments. I know a lot of you said you were interested in reading this after I mentioned it in the video where I checked it out from the library and then did the poll. Have I changed your mind at all? You still going to give it a try? I would be so curious. Let me know in the comments. And whether you watched all the spoilers in this video or just fast forwarded to the end, thank you so much for being here. And if you are here and you made it this far, but you don't have anything you'd like to add in the comments, well, let's leave a red book because it's the red address book. I know there's a red book emoji. So if you'd like to leave those in the comments and just let me know that you were here, I so appreciate that. And if you enjoyed this review video, if you wouldn't mind hitting that like button and also the hype button on the YouTube mobile app. And if you're new here and you'd like to see more review videos, hopefully of books I like better than this one, then I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button and join my cozy bookish community. I promise I normally read books much cozier than this one. I had so much fun doing this, book friends. I will definitely be having you all vote on a book for me to read, probably in either April or May. I think this time I might have you go along with me as I pull a few books off of my own unread shelf, and you can pick one of those for me to read next. So stay tuned because that will be coming in the not too distant future. Thank you all so much for being here, for all your lovely comments on my most recent videos. And as always, I'll be back with another video very soon. And until then, I wish you a better book than this and a warm cuppa. Bye.